The law of adoption was an LDS doctrine that allowed men who held the priesthood to be sealed to one another in the temple, creating a father-son relationship that would later persist in the celestial kingdom after they died. This doctrine was started in 1846 by Brigham Young in the Nauvoo Temple, when he sealed himself to the deceased Mormon prophet Joseph Smith. Young was sealed to 38 young men before he took the church to Utah. As authorization for the doctrine, Young claimed that on February 23, 1847, he went to see Joseph Smith in a dream and discussed it with him. On April 6, 1862, Brigham Young said, "By this power men will be sealed to men, back to Adam, completing and making perfect the priesthood from this day to the winding up scene." He also said that there will be time when men would be sealed to men in the priesthood, in a more solemn ordinance than that by which women are sealed to men, and in a room over that in which women were sealed to men. The doctrine was not just practiced between adults and young men. Adults were sealed to each other as well. John D. Lee, who was a prominent figure in Mormon history, was adopted by Brigham Young. Lee said, "I first became acquainted with Brigham Young when I went to Far West, Missouri to join the church in 1837. I got very intimately acquainted with all the great leaders of the church. I was adopted by Brigham Young as one of his sons, and for many years I confess I looked upon him as an inspired and holy man." Lee was over 30 years old when the doctrine started in Nauvoo. Also, Mormon prophet Wilford Woodruff wrote in his journal that he had officiated in adopting 96 men to men. And while he was the St. George Temple president in 1877, he adopted 2 couples to Brigham Young when the sealing rooms were dedicated. After almost 50 years of the law of adoption being practiced in LDS temples, Mormon prophet Wilford Woodruff abandoned the doctrine and its practice in the temple, stating, "I have not felt satisfied, nor has any man since the prophet Joseph Smith, who has attended to the ordinance of adoption in the temples of our God. We have felt there was more to be revealed on this subject than we have received." By that time, 45 persons had already been adopted to Woodruff, and out of the 17 church apostles who had died faithful to the church prior to 1894, 14 had persons adopted to them in the temple.